when you ask a dumb question, it might lead someone who has even more context to be like, dude, that's not a dumb question. Why do we even have that?
I'm Omar El Malak, and I'm a fourth-year computer science student at the University of Toronto, minoring in business and math. Today, I'm joined by Emmanuel Sogelola, who's a full-time security engineer at Twitch in New York. Emmanuel graduated from McMaster University in software engineering in 2024, and before that from George Brown College in game development in 2021. Throughout his nearly 6-year stint as an undergraduate student, Emmanuel has completed internships across nearly every corner of software engineering, covering areas such as data engineering, DevOps, frontend, backend, and mobile development, which all paved the way together for his current role as a full-time security engineer. He's also gained experience across a wide range of industries, and today we'll speak about his work at Twitch, Wealthsimple, Zendesk, SurveyMonkey, and InnovFin Consulting. In this episode, Emmanuel and I discuss what it actually takes to succeed as a student interested in software engineering in the age of AI. We also dive into a framework on how to consistently build strong software projects that attract recruiters' attention, how to prepare for interviews, how to land internships in Canada as well as the US, how to pivot to different subdomains of engineering, and maybe, just maybe, by the end of this episode, you'll walk away with your own answer to the age-old question, is software engineering really cooked? So, without further ado, I'm excited to share my discussion with Emmanuel Sogelola. So good to have you here, Emmanuel, and I'm excited, to start off the show with you, especially. As soon as I had the idea for the podcast, you were the first person I thought of. You've built a incredibly impressive track record in tech, which we'll unpack throughout this episode. But more importantly, I kind of see you as a very good role model for students starting their careers in tech, which can be often a very overwhelming industry to get started into. And we've known each other for just over a year. We actually met through a coffee chat, so it's quite convenient. Yeah. And I reached out at a time that I really needed you, and you immediately said, let's do it. And since then, you've been a great mentor and friend to me as well. And your advice, energy, optimism have helped me grow so much. And your advice has, helped me at times when I needed, questions in my own career. So I know that you'll do the same for our audience here, and they definitely have a treat on their hands. So with that intro, welcome to the first episode.
Hey. Hi, everyone. Emmanuel here. I don't know if I should give myself a short introduction, but I suppose I could. Previously, software engineering at McMaster, and currently now a security engineer at Twitch, where I'm working on incident response and all that fun detection, shenanigans, honestly.
Beautiful. Awesome. Okay, we'll get started with some quick icebreakers, get the room going, get the people to know who you are as a person. We can kind of dive into your career and your opinions on that as well.
Sick. Right.
So first question, quick fire. What's your go-to work or study snack?
Definitely gonna be Haribo's Cola specifically. If you know, you know. I love eating those, and of course Twizzlers. I gotta throw that in there because most people don't like Twizzlers. They talk about it's like rubber. They don't know what they're talking about. It's pretty good.
So you're more on the sweet side of
Okay. Straight up. I'm not nothing savory. No cheese, no crackers. Just we go straight to the gummies.
Okay. You'll put me on maybe. I'll try it.
No, trust.
What's something you could kind of just talk about for hours in general? Any topic.
Any topic? I guess currently it definitely is a little bit artificial intelligence. The dev buzzword going around. AI. I guess out of like the nerd tech stuff. Possibly movies or the occasional anime. You gotta throw that in there sometimes.
I know you mentioned that on the first chat, and I haven't been put on yet. So maybe starting today we could kind of dive into that world, but we'll see.
Yeah.
What's an activity that you do outside of work that keeps you kind of grounded and focused in all the stresses that come with software?
It definitely depends on the season. During the summer, I love skateboarding, just being outside, or I think hiking is really, really good. I think that's it's not underrated. I feel like everybody hikes at some point, but it's definitely really good at grounding. And if you can't go outside to hike or go up a mountain, I think just walking around is the best bet. I'm in New York, so I city bike a lot. I city bike down and I just walk back because why not? It's
Of
really
course,
good.
why not?
Yeah.
What's the step count average these days?
Ooh, I wish I tracked, but I do be walking quite a bit. So honestly,
Yeah,
above 10,000 for sure.
for sure, for sure. I mean, that's kind of the way to go right now. I mean,
Yeah.
everyone in Toronto here is walking as well. It's a good time, but when winter comes, we'll see how that changes. But let's not talk about that now. We'll
Yeah.
we'll
Yeah.
get into your college and university life first.
Yeah.
So, of course, you graduated, I believe, 2 years ago now.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you had kind of an unconventional post high school path. So you first kind of went into college at George Brown College for game development, and then you followed a more traditional web development route at McMaster as an
Yeah.
official university experience. So kind of give us a summary and the thought process in doing both of those experience, and what are the kind of advantages or disadvantages of doing that?
Okay, so straight up, I guess the reason why I decided to even go to college right out of high school was because I wanted to do game development and I wasn't really sure what other landscapes of development there was. Like predominantly, like most of high school when I was programming, I was just programming fun console games like blackjack or like poker or something like that. And I was like, okay, I can do game development, but like I entered college and immediately realized that the game development route, it's not that not that proficient, I should say. It's not
Hmm.
that the paid is not that good, but I really really liked it. But thanks to college, like college or George Brown specifically was really really hands on, so I got a lot of chances to build a lot of things, a lot of web applications, so, really hands on database management, like pretty much anything you can imagine in the tech sphere they really had us building at George Brown. And honestly, after I finished all that, I realized that I have really good hands-on knowledge, but I kind of lacked the theoretical. So hence why I started like looking for a university pivot. Obviously, the market, like if I got a job, I probably would have taken a job first, but it was just like, yeah, since I have the chance to sort of like find an internship and then just continue my education, get a better understanding of tech in general, I sort of opted to go to university. So I went to university specifically, honestly, for the theoretical aspect of things, and obviously just to do more internships. I guess that was definitely like the bank play there, alongside the theoretical. And definitely say that's the upsides and downsides. Like college is really really good hands on. It really allowed me to pick what I wanted to do, which is everything. I kind of was like, yo, I want to, like, they give me all this like hands on training on building databases, infrastructure. Like, why can't I just do it all? So sort of like piggyback off that, and I wanted deeper knowledge. So I went to McMaster for that.
Right. Okay. I mean, this is all new to me as well, so I'm kind of learning with the audience too. But yeah, I mean, you're kind of talking about hands-on, getting exposed to a lot of different things. So in that sort of exploration phase, what were some of the courses or extracurriculars that kind of made the biggest impact on how you see your career today, or left a long-standing impact?
Yeah, so like I think immediately when I entered college, I immediately realized like, for someone who like me who likes coding outside of school or work, like it was like, oh, this is perfect. Like I get to do exactly what I'm doing at home for grades. So like
Exactly.
one of the courses I really really liked was my college data structures and algorithm class, which is like big shock because like everybody hates those class. I don't know, like
Very big shock.
yeah, yeah. I like okay. I hated that class when I went to university, but in college it's very hands on. So they make you build every data structure. Like we're doing merge sorts, like hands on and building it. But one of the extracurriculars I really liked was the fact that the data structures teacher at George Brown, he took his time and money to sort of like teach us outside of class, like for like maybe 2 3 hours, and like we're instead of just learning how to build it, we were sort of learning the theoretical aspect in college of like now that you built it, like what could you use this for? Like you know how to build a binary search, but what are you going to search for now? Like what would you
That's a
use
big
it for?
question.
Yeah, and like I think thanks to him and thanks to that extracurricular time we spent every like I think it was like every Wednesday after class, like we were really just asking ourselves like, okay, what would we use this data structure for, or like or he was kind of introduced pretty much was introducing us to leak code is the TLDR of how I should like in college we didn't even know what I personally didn't even know what leak code is. I knew what competitive programming was, but like leak code was like, what I gotta solve problems now, and like he was sort of introducing that to
Exactly.
us, and I really liked that class in college. And then, of course, in university, my favorite class is computer security. That was pretty interesting class. Like, just the same. I guess it's the teachers that go above and beyond. Like, she was doing a lot of like after school stuff of showing us how to like do malware breaking down and malware detection and just reverse engineering in general. And I thought that was pretty cool. Like, hands down, like really changed my mindset on everything.
Oh, okay. I mean, I was definitely not expecting data structures to be to be the
Yeah,
first answer.
yeah,
But I mean, no, that's definitely great, because a lot of people are just learning data structures to learn data structures because they
yeah,
have to. So. I mean, in a sense, me included, right? So, but it's
Yeah.
good that you got that exposure to someone who is actually passionate about data structures itself, and beyond that, why is that actually an important thing to learn beyond the
Yeah.
technical second round technical interview or whatever.
Like,
So
I
yeah,
definitely gotta say, like, honestly, thanks to him, I probably did pretty good in most of my other interviews. Like, I feel like without
exactly,
that, I would have like been falling asleep studying that by myself. Like, it was quite
exactly.
nice.
So the tip for that, the takeaway is, be passionate about data structures and you'll get good at them, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. No, literally, yeah, I guess, yeah, yeah, that's it.
Force yourself to be passionate about data structures, I
Jesus.
guess,
Oh
and
my god.
learn the why,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
that's
that's
probably
smart.
why you kind of got into it. Could you, if you remember anything off the top of your head, like why was a certain data structure useful? Like, did you learn any use cases like that
Yeah,
you
so like
remember?
one of the my favorite one was the data structure where you sort of like having everything in it. Like it wasn't binary search. I think it was merge sort, but he was sort of showing us the differences between merge sort and then heap sort, and then we were sort of taking it like a bit deeper where he sort of explained that heap sort would be beneficial for memory management. So like we started like understanding, and he actually started breaking down pointers to us, like C++ pointers, and just sort of explaining it to us in a very hardware level of like, when you have all these pointers, where are they being stored? And he was literally kind of breaking down like heap memory and like what do you call it? Oh, it's been so long. Heap memory and just I guess static memory in general in Java. And the fact that he was just breaking it down, showing us like, so for context in this extracurricular, we weren't really using our laptops. A lot of this was just hands-on on paper. So like we're drawing pointers, like and quite literally doing pointer heap sorts. And I thought that was really, really like I thought it was really good because no computers, no distractions. You're just drawing all this thing, and you're just like,
No.
that makes sense. I can see it. I'm literally seeing it as I'm drawing it. Like heap sort works like this, and like honestly, I think off of that, just like I still have the notebook. I go back sometimes, look at a notebook, I'm like, man, back when I used to be smart, back in my prime, back in my prime, I'm cooked now. But I really do think like his description of heap sort on paper was like it was like sort of like a like wow, that's really cool. And then he showed us merge sort. I was like, oh wow, that's even on paper. Like it's like oh that makes sense. Like it literally breaking it down, and we're now
Wow.
seeing it visually. So it was really cool, really cool.
No, that's awesome. That's awesome. I mean, I never got that physical paper explanation of heap sort and merge sort and all these things, and seeing how that ties into the memory and all that stuff. That's all new to me. I
Yeah,
mean, shout out to that prof, whoever he is, if he's listening to
golden,
this
golden. Hey, shout out Andrew.
eventually. Shout out Andrew. Andrew's
Yeah,
name.
shout out Andrew. Yeah,
Shout
yeah.
out Andrew. Shout out
Yes,
Andrew.
sir.
All right. So I mean that's kind of a brief on your college and uni experience. So let's dive into the career experience now.
Yeah,
Um, so you started off at a startup called InnovFin.
yeah.
Correct me if I'm saying that wrong.
Yep, that's correct.
And it was your first kind of key internship, and it was actually 9 months
Yeah,
at it's a consulting startup that's focused on blockchain.
yeah.
And how did you go about landing that opportunity with limited prior experience, which is a key question today that
Yeah.
our students are asking.
So I think honestly that was immediately right after college as well. So I didn't really have much. I think I at that time on my resume specifically, I recall I had obviously my warehouse job that I had. I bloated that thing up with like a bunch of management stuff, and then I had a sort of apprenticeship that I did at a game studio for about like 1 week, 1 month, and that was about it. But what really sort of like made me stand out, I guess, in the application process was probably a lot of my personal projects. Like I think that was something a lot of people miss. Like your resume could be empty, but nothing. This is development. This is technical landscape. Like as long as you can build something, like we're all given the same tools, right? It's just a amount of like what resources or time you want to allocate to it. And so I spent a lot of time building a lot of side projects. And like, I have 2 experiences on my resume, but I have 3 side projects that are like, pretty decent for an intern to build, if it makes sense. Like, I definitely would say one of the projects that I think highlighted on my resume was my Amazon clone. It was called Amazon. Ding, 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 Amazon.
Okay.
And I built that with like Amazon Amplify, and I sort of like it was pretty much a full stack project, but one of my first full stack projects. Um, and I thought it was like really good. Like I sort of put on my resume, I put Node.js, JavaScript, and it was a little bit more design oriented. But I think just having that project on there, a full stack project where I went from like 0 to 1, was quite a significant leap. Like they were interested in actually talking to me about JavaScript or Node.js and all that kind of stuff.
Right, right. And how did you design that project with an internship in mind? Or did you just create that on your own and then reposition that as a project that's presentable? So how did you kind of go about creating a project that's presentable, and was it intentional or unintentional?
So I definitely was intentional because I think at the end of the day, like when people are trying to hire you, they want to see if you can build something that's real, tangible. One thing I realized in college immediately was that everybody was sort of putting in the to do app, they were putting in the weather app on their resume, which is of course not bad at all. But like if you spend an additional hour, you could make something completely different of the same caliber. You know what I mean? So I kind of was like, I was sort of like that entire summer I spent literally 4 months of prepping myself in terms of applying for random internships, applying for random full-time roles. I was more geared towards internships because I wanted to go to McMaster. I was like, okay, I'll go to
Right.
McMaster, but I'll apply for full-time roles in case I get lucky. Maybe that little like unicorn finally snags me and I just hightail it.
The dream story.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And I spent that 4 months quite literally, like I had a Notion page of like, I want to build four projects, quite literally. I had four projects in mind and I picked the top two, which was Amazon and a Discord clone called DoodleCore that I wanted to build.
Okay.
But that was more design rather than actually building it. So I focused more on Amazon. But I spent a lot of time kind of architecting Amazon where like I can spend my time this summer building it without having to stress about deployment, like infrastructure and all that kind of stuff. And I actually created like a thesis for it with like in my Notion page of like, what is the point of me building this? Like, I'm building this to showcase that I am a full stack developer who's able to both design and deploy a full scale application that is functioning in production. At the time, obviously coming out of college, I didn't even know what secrets manager were for. So like being able to build this from start to finish securely was quite literally the end goal. Like something that's feasible that I want my sister or my friends to go on and use, and their data is just not going to end up in like a junk pile that's like being
Right.
thrown or like scammed or something like that. And that was kind of like the end goal. That was like what I had in mind. I was like, I'm building this to be usable, to be presentable to recruiters or like friends alike.
I mean, that the way that you've described it makes it sound like I think maybe one of the best ways to start a project now is to start with a project statement. What is what am I translating to a recruiter through this project?
Yeah, quite literally.
What's that statement? And you said it perfectly. You were like, this is I want to present to a recruiter that I am able to create a project that can be deployed and that can be used by X amount of people,
Yeah,
where their data is secure. So this
yeah,
is this is the statement that I'm sending to the recruiter. And in a
yeah,
sense, maybe I'm thinking, just brainstorming here, you could have different project statements for different projects and build those projects to deliver different ideas to different recruiters.
yeah,
So if you have a project that this project might be based on secure data, you might have another project that's based on, for example, your deployability.
yeah.
Another project that's based on your front end skills. So do you think that could be a viable strategy? Is that how you would approach your projects as well?
Yeah, I definitely think so. And so particularly, like, I think having project statements in general for approaching new projects is really, really good. And then it depends on, of course, where you, or like the sort of sector you're trying to apply for, if that makes sense, right?
Right.
Like, I was looking for, like, I want to be a general programmer. That's been my goal overall. Like, I want people to look at my resume and be like, oh, he's able to do back end, front end, and a little bit of infrastructure. That was like sort of my goal. So I was like, I picked it off of obviously my end goal here, right? As a developer, like if you want to do front end work, then you start breaking that problem statement now specifically to front end. Like, so
Right.
what is your specific flow in terms of getting that front end internship at I don't know, like uh, Wealthsimple? Let's just pick my favorite keywords,
Sure.
right? Like, what was a problem statement like that would look like? And it could be anything. Like for you specifically, if you want to be a front end engineer, you might go for a more user experience sort of role where now you're like, I wanted to see what a 6-year-old person would go through to get retirement funds, or how a 6-year-old person would manage their wealth when they retire, how will they manage their estate? And that's like a good problem statement that a lot of people can have. That's now geared towards a very specific niche that a front end recruiter would see that as like, wow, they're nice. This person actually thought through the process. He actually cares about the user he's building for, and they completed it. I looked at it, and I'm a 60. I could pretend I'm a 6-year-old person and use
Right.
this, and it seems intuitive to me.
Wow. Okay. That's awesome. I mean, that's this whole way of thinking about projects is something that I've had a back and forth in my head about. Like, do I build something that I'm passionate about? Do I build something that's for the recruiter? Do I build something that's in a new technology I've never learned? Like, what's the balance of those three things that's the most suitable? So you've kind of cleared that up.
Yeah.
Um,
Really, I really like that question actually, because like the main thing to me actually when building this is you have to have passion when building it. Otherwise, it just becomes homework again. Does that make
exactly.
sense?
Yeah.
Like for me, like one of the things I was giggling to myself as I was building Amazon because I like the name Amazon because like I was anytime I'd interview, I literally do the same clip as like Amazon, like I literally like I'm selling it to people, and like it kind of helped. Of course, like during the I remember like any behavioral where I bring this project up, it would always get giggles because my
Mhm.
idea of why I even built it was I was trying to clone Amazon. I was trying to clone Amazon. See, I'm already making
Right.
mistakes. I was trying to clone
Exactly.
Amazon, and like just having that like fun aspect of it, it really made me even sell it even more during my interviews. Like I was like, yeah, I built
Mhm.
it. I was really excited. I want to make my own like commerce, and like I would definitely say like recruiters, like even engineers when they're picked for their interviews, and when the hiring managers that you talk to, like they can feel that passion if it makes sense. Like you talking about your weather app or your to do app, like like let's be like let's be really like they're gonna be like, oh, back of the line, like oh, he just built it for class again. You know what I mean? Like there's like a
Exactly.
driving portion of like excitement of why I built it, and if I can sell it right, you can feel that excitement too. If it makes sense.
Of course. Of course. That's awesome. Okay, so then we'll jump right into your next role. So your next role was at SurveyMonkey,
Yeah.
and that was a focus on infrastructure engineering, and it was kind of focusing on migrating legacy Jenkins CI/CD jobs to GitHub Actions.
Yeah.
And you also worked on automation work as well.
Yeah.
So how did this infrastructure engineering role differ from perhaps your role at InnovFin or in general, just regular front end or back end development?
Yeah, I think. Oh, so this definitely different because this was more of like an intern cohort that I got to interact with. Really, really like the in personality of it. Like I got to meet a lot of cool interns, and specifically for SurveyMonkey, I got the chance to really interact with a lot of people who weren't even on my team. And I sort of used that like as a networking opportunity. When I was in office, I was always chatting with like senior engineers or like a manager, just asking random questions about the market. But I guess what really differed was just the overall job requirements or job requirement in TLDR, I guess. Like infrastructure is very much different than like, everyday coding, where it's more understanding the grand scope of how the whole company architects their software, and then how like I'm coming there to take something out and bring something new. So it was kind of really really interesting, especially since it's like my first like real corporate job because InnovFin was a startup kind of vibe, very fast paced, very like a one on one with the CEO, sort of like interacting, doing requirements like that. And then going to SurveyMonkey, such a big company, it's also US owned. So like I'm interacting with people who are not even in Canada. And just building for them was really, really interesting. Like you got a lot of like product requirements where it's like, hey, we have a bunch of these old flaky tests. How are we going to properly migrate it to GitHub Actions? And just honestly seeing legacy, like seeing how big companies like this have such legacy backlog. I was like, holy
Very true.
smoke, this is interesting. Like I did, you would have thought like some big company like that would be they'd have like I don't know Jenkins or Fortran or some random like ASML language or something like that.
Mm,
It
yeah,
was different. It's really different.
very different. I'm sure. I mean, the jump for me as well was quite massive,
Yeah,
and you do feel it. Like you do feel it from both a technical aspect. You kind of feel that imposter syndrome a bit,
yeah,
and then you also from a social and as a human being walking into that new environment, it's like whoa, like I've never experienced something like this before. So I mean, on that topic of I guess like technical versus behavioral new experience wise, um, how do you look at um, for example infrastructure engineering in terms of big corporate landscape? I know you touched on this a bit, but how do you look at being able to improve your skills in infrastructure engineering on a smaller scale? I feel like that's very different from infrastructure engineering on a corporate scale, and setting up these types of actions and things like that. A lot of people are not really doing this for their own little project because there's no real need for it, right?
yeah.
So how do you kind of prepare yourself for these sort of more infra focused roles if usually those roles can only be kind of tested in your corporate environment,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So that's kind of exciting because that just brought back a core memory of mine of me actually trying to prep for this internship because like I got like a vague like when you get team match and like you're gonna be doing product security and I was like product like or more like product development for the teams. But so prepping for this internship, I was sort of like, okay, how am I supposed to get into product engineering? Because that's sort of like the team I was entering. I was entering product engineering where you're building things for people in a company. I was like, how am I going to prep for something that I don't have people to build for? You know what I mean? Like, what am I going to do here? I quite literally was kind of stressing and I was searching up like GitHub Action projects to do. resident sleeper. It was very sleep, like very boring, I would say. Like it was like,
Exactly.
build these pipelines on your next project. It's like, bro, like I'm not building a whole new project for this right now.
Hmm.
But what I did was take a step back and go to my previous projects and build for that. Like I built, like for my portfolio, I set up a lot of GitHub Action workflows for just like when I make like a simple button change, I wanted it to quickly be deployed and then just test like some very simple tests for me. And it was really, really, really simple because at the time I had deployed it on Firebase. So I kind of had it fully connected with the Firebase deploy in GitHub Action. So like I
Okay.
sort of got an idea of like, oh, okay, like I can apply it to some of my current projects. I did the same for Amazon. I created like GitHub Action scripts for Amazon. Of course, it's not at a corporate scale, but to me, it was like, oh shit, like I can feel it in my development. Like my developer experience just got a boost because I can just push. I literally just keep refreshing my webpage, and now it's like immediately there. And like all my
Exactly.
tests have just passed, and I can see it all. So yeah, testing for that was interesting. Or getting to the point where I could test for it was interesting. I was just stumped.
I'm sure. I'm sure. I mean, that's definitely a very good way of looking at it. Because of course, that thought that, oh, I need to create an entire new project, it puts us back in that state where we were in before. You
Yeah,
have to create the project statement, you have to create the project, you have to
yeah,
build it such that it fulfills a need, and this need now is just GitHub Action. So how do you position a project
yeah.
to solve that problem of showing that you know how to use GitHub Actions? It's a
Yeah,
bit tough. So yeah, that's definitely a great way to look at it, because you can, especially if you have a lot of projects, it works to your advantage, right? You can just
yeah. You just go
spam
right
across
back.
all those projects,
Yeah.
and then you can add that to your, I guess, project statement for each of them.
Yeah, literally,
So
it really is like it's like as you start being a full stack engineer, you start realizing like I can literally do everything and add it. Like my product statement just keeps getting larger and larger. So it's kind of cool. It's kind of cool. I think that
exactly.
kind of chimes in with like building and like startup, to be honest. But story for another
Story for story for another time, for sure, for sure. Next time we'll have you on. We'll when the startup is there, we'll get to that. We'll get to that.
time.
Okay, so your next step was at Zendesk,
Mm,
um, and there you focused more on data engineering. So again,
yeah,
another shift to a new sort of field,
yeah,
which for a lot of students is definitely a mysterious one.
mm,
So what you did was kind of working on cloud storage tools like Amazon S3, and that was kind of focusing on, one, making data more structured, two, reliable, and three, accessible. These are the
yeah,
kind of key traits from what I've learned as what you kind of need to have as a foundation or a building block for any sort of data engineering role.
yeah.
So how do you view data engineering as a career path in general? And what kind of transferable skills could a student learn from software engineering or a data and statistics background, maybe kind of hybrid, if they want to learn sort of what it takes to be a data engineer?
Yeah. So one thing I could definitely say, that role is, I don't want to be too comedic here, but that role felt like you're a coal miner, like because you're getting a lot of data and you really really got to find the good ones, right? Like not all these rocks in the cave are good. I'm looking for that gemstone. I'm looking for that like clean formatted data, and that's sort of what we're doing. Like once we exit the cave, we should have well formatted, well cleaned, and well maintained data for like anybody to ingest and use. That's sort of the way I had my thinking when I was at Zendesk. I was like I've never worked at like one. It was a backend data engineering, so I've never worked in Node.js, TypeScript. So it was like a whole new like, oh my god, like TypeScript. I gotta start typing my JavaScript. Like what are you talking about here? Like impossible, impossible. And then like when I got in, I immediately was like, yo, they're handling a lot of data. Like they're talking about Kafka, they're talking about data warehouses, and like these were all just being thrown at me. I'm like, well, what's a data lake? Like it was so new, such a new concept. And I started like mentally or visually, you can start seeing like through a company, you can see how the data pipes through. That's quite literally what data engineering is. Like you are a piece in a pipeline of data that might be just being piped in a circular motion, like quite literally. Like it starts off, let's say someone sends a WhatsApp message, that data is being piped through a whole pipeline, and certain teams can pull that data, enrich it, and sort of like build things off of that. And just honestly, well, coming from like not a data engineering background, it was really really cool seeing how well maintained and how strict a pipeline needs to be. Like because if you have a leak in your pipeline, it's like now you're just missing a lot of context for people to utilize at the end of the road. And like it's funny enough, like my team is, let's say my team was maybe at the center of that pipeline, managing like specific user accounts and all that kind of stuff. But some other teams are going to need this data, and you make one mistake, like user accounts metadata are just no longer showing up down the road. What happened? So I learned a lot about criticality. I'll definitely say that. Like, you can't pause a pipeline. You just can't do, like, you can't really pause data flow. If you do, you lose it. And then what do you do when you lose it? Data can't really be like, depending on which infrastructure you have, data can't really be recovered like that. So I definitely say the role is a lot of like, you really learn data criticality, like how important like the management of data is. And I found it really interesting. Like it was completely brand new to me. Like I feel like once I got that role, I understand, like I really understand like the overall architecture of like from going from infrastructure to now, okay, like now that the infrastructure was just managing the pipelines or building for the pipelines, now like what's in the pipelines? What does it look
Right.
like in there? Like how does the data even flow in? When do you even like when do I put my tap in there and start siphoning some data out? Like when do I do that? When I put my straw? Like I don't know. It was really cool.
So that's definitely interesting that you're looking at it in this way, because so you came from, I guess, a high level, and then
Yeah.
you narrowed down to that really really niche subject. It's a kind of going from 100 to
Yeah.
0 in terms of how narrow your scope was.
Yeah.
So do you, like, this is kind of just, I'm just curious, like how did you approach the mindset of having that wide scope versus a lower scope? Are there things in the way that you approach your work change? Like, for example, if on a higher scope you might be thinking, oh, like I don't need to worry about implementation of this. I just need to know like how this works at an architectural level. I need to focus maybe more on diagrams and schemas and things like that, rather than the actual nitty gritty of, oh, like what's the data type of this versus data type of this? What exactly quantifies a good piece of data versus a bad piece of data? These types of things are more implementation details. So how do you go from that wide to narrow, and do you think that's the best way to do it, or should you go from narrow to wide?
Ooh, I think going from narrow to wide is definitely the hardest part, right? Like, cause like if you're looking through a telescope and that's all you're seeing, you kind of lose. You just lost so much context, right? Like,
Right.
there's a whole ocean to see. So I would definitely say going from wide to narrow is definitely the easiest. Like that just makes sense, even programmatically. Like you can walk through any code base if you can understand it at the highest level, right? Like if I'm about to click a button on a front end, I personally, for me, I know how to walk through to find what is even calling the endpoint, right? Like I can go through React and what's going on there, and that's just
Yeah.
going from wide to narrow. Programmatically, that's just the simplest for everybody. So I definitely recommend wide to narrow.
Yeah.
But personally, for me, when doing that, or like when I was going narrow, like the biggest pain point was honestly understanding like it really is like the importance of it, like the importance of like I guess like the way you manage the data is how I would say it was the important part. Like when you're building for such a large scope, like you're sort of just like free reign sort of feel, sort of like I'm building for this, I'm building for that, I'm building for this, and you're sort of like all hands off, like if someone else is managing it. I would say, but when you're building for such a small niche, small like requirement, it's now like okay, we got a plan. There's a lot more logistics. There's a lot more preparatory work that needs to be done because you make one little pinhole, water starts leaking and you start losing data. And like at such a small scope, you simply can't afford to lose such important information. Like that's sort of like the largest thing I learned, and it was kind of cool. Also, like some of the principles you learn in school, such as like deadlocks and like just
Mhm.
like resource management, like it really comes to fruition when you start like scoping in, right? Like that's sort of what like threading and just like pools, like that's just the base principle of it, right? Like at a large scale, you don't got to worry about concurrency at a large scale. You don't worry,
Right.
your computer doing that for you. But when you start zooming in, you're like, oh man, like
There's a
what the
lot.
what the block
There's a lot
algorithm am I
going
going to
on.
use now? So it was quite interesting. Like it was a difference in understanding, and I definitely say it benefited.
Okay, for sure. And you think like if someone wanted to go into that, like Kafka is a good first step,
Oh yeah,
or?
by far. Yeah, I definitely use Kafka messaging queues as a general one. Like that was also another point where I started learning about RabbitMQ. That was pretty interesting. Like I didn't really like message broker, like the overall message broker and why you need a message broker and like a pub subscriber pattern. Like it really flies over your head during like university because like why do I need like I'm building for
Yeah,
myself and maybe my friends. Why do I need a message broker?
exactly.
But yeah, those are like very good principles to understand pub sub, message brokers, like Kafka. And I think once you understand quite literally those concepts, you can almost understand any other data engineering concepts that like may persist. Like everything else just becomes like optimization and performance issues, honestly.
Right, right. Okay, awesome. So we can jump into the next role now. For a lot of people, this is quite a big one. The Your 2023 role was in Wealthsimple. So could you walk us through, I guess, at a high level, how you got the opportunity and what the experience was like?
Yeah. So at a really high level, I had applied already, and then I got into the interview. I didn't do so well at the second technical, and I didn't do so well, so I didn't get, I didn't get the role at the time for the fall. But then I had attended a hackathon. That's something I really like doing. Attending hackathons. I probably attended a lot of hackathons, and I got to attend Hack the Six, which was hosted at Wealthsimple, where I met Maddie, one of the recruiters at Wealthsimple. And I was really scared of applying to Wealthsimple again because after I just took that recent L, like it was literally the fall of when I was at this hackathon. I was at the Wealthsimple office, like, man, I just failed. I don't want them to see my face. I just talked to her. Like she's probably gonna like throw tomatoes at me. But I reached out to her there, and she was like, "Yeah, you can definitely reapply." I was like, "Oh, I can just do that." Like I don't know why I thought they banned me or something. So I literally reached out to her right after that, and I reapplied, and then I got a second chance. And like honestly, like I was just sort of prepping for the interviews again. Like I was so like I guess like I was in the right headspace, and I was like, okay, I got to make sure I understand like just the basic principles. Like of course, they give some tips and tricks of just like understanding object oriented programming, understanding how to explain yourself, and I sort of like locked in and like did the interview again and pretty much aced it. And it was quite honestly the interview process was quite nice, quite simple, and the people who I interviewed with were very friendly. So it was really nice.
I like that. Quite simple. Quite
Yeah,
simple. Quite, pretty fitting.
yeah, yeah, right. Like, yeah, it was quite nice.
Awesome. Okay. I mean, on that topic, actually, Wealthsimple is really known on focusing on keeping things simple. I mean, not just in terms of the financial literacy, especially for younger audiences as well, but also in how they approach their technical infrastructure. So how did you see that sort of mission come through day to day at maybe a technical level as well? And what did it mean for you as an intern?
So I guess just technical in a sense is like they're already using one of the most like not simple programming languages, but a really straightforward programming language that makes like being a developer easy and simple. If it makes sense. Like I don't know, like I feel like it's a common trait in Ruby on Rails that like once you use it, it's sort of like it starts making sense. It's a pretty simple one to use, and you start like, oh, I could just like grab this user data like this, and you just like start chaining things, and it's very like the programming language they choose is quite simple. So I think they did a pretty good job already there. But just in general, like Wealthsimple, they do a really good job keeping things simple in the sense like I guess your teams do own a lot of things. You get a lot of opportunities to work on some really really cool things. A lot of projects like they have really clear requirements. It's nothing too overcomplicated. It's nothing too like grandiose. They pretty much like it's like pretty much bite sized each approach they would do. And as an intern, you do have a lot of impact because you know a lot of these bite sized problems that they try to approach. There's a lot of things where you can add your 2 cents and you can add your technical expertise and build it alongside like many of your other engineers. I would definitely say the engineering scope of things is they keep it simple. They keep it nice and well managed.
Awesome. Yeah, for sure. And what we find today is that these fintech companies and e-commerce, giants that are emerging like Wealthsimple, Shopify, they're becoming, just known as Ruby on Rails shops at this point. And they're some of the biggest in the world, actually. I believe Shopify is the biggest Ruby on Rails shop in the world, and Wealthsimple is probably, if I had to guess, is probably nearing on that.
Yeah.
So I find it's become a very severely overlooked skill to learn, Ruby on Rails. So how do you think Ruby on Rails is a skill that is worth taking the time to learn and build a project on in today's age? Is it progressing in that state, or is it something that's just kind of kept towards just this hand selected few companies?
So historically, one of the definitely reasons why they chose Ruby on Rails was just because, like I said, like Simple keeps it simple. The program language was meant to be simple, meant to be easily developable, like developers to sort of build things at scale. And I definitely say like as the company grows or as the project grows, it definitely becomes a little hard to manage in Ruby on Rails. But companies like Shopify, they add so much third-party tooling, they add so much like community support that it almost like lets you build anything you want. In terms of like chasing that Ruby on Rails like programming language goal, like I really do them. Like I've already said it multiple times. Like it's quite a simple programming language to pick up. It's a scripting language that is not really like it's bloated in a magical way. You may Google that yourself, but it's bloated in a magical way. But when you approach it, it's quite simple. Like it's really easy to pick up. So if you haven't already and you're aiming to apply to Shopify or Wealthsimple, I highly recommend just making a simple project, like a full stack project on Ruby and Rails. Like it really wouldn't take you that long. I would actually say maybe a week, honestly. And with ChatGPT and Claude and all this kind of stuff, like you really could do something really good in a week.
What would be the ideal project to submit to a company like Wealthsimple? Like I know for sure that you had mentioned when I asked this question a year ago, you mentioned make a project that deals with data flow,
Yeah.
and that's the sort of the theme that they would look into as something that's important. What's your kind of take on that a year later?
Yeah. So one, it definitely depends on what the company's focus is. That's like a definitely like a most important part. But in terms of building for companies at such large scales like this, it definitely is data flow. Like they don't want to see you just doing regular CRUD kind of stuff. Like they want to see you build like workers. Like if you have a task queue that sort of like asynchronously calls a certain data point, maybe market data, compares it with something and displays it for the end user in a nice UI way. That's definitely something to look forward to. I really do think full stack projects are the way to go. If you're going to use Ruby on Rails, it makes it a lot simpler to build a full stack application. But generally, like personally for me, in preparation for my Wealthsimple internship, like I was building a fintech, like a little like budget manager with quite literally a budget manager Ruby on Rails, and like it got me really used to Ruby, and it was a really good project to just have on deck because I could actually talk to people at Wealthsimple about Ruby thanks to that project. So I highly recommend just building anything that involves data flow. Obviously, like asynchronous jobs, like that's a very common one, and specifically in fintech and shopping. Like you may not realize it, but a lot of things you do online are asynchronous jobs that are kicked off later, and then like update your data. And a lot of companies, if you have asynchronous jobs, like we're just handling like our job management on as a project, like they will see that okay, he understands the principle of like data availability and just like data management because that's like the number one principle of like making sure your the user's compute time is not that high. Like aggregating all their account data is going to take a long time. How do you manage that CPU usage, right? You kick it off to a job, it handles it later, or it handles it in sequence, and that is now available. So just being able to do that is quite important.
It's almost like that data engineering role that you had before kind of came in clutch here
No,
to
quite
get
a
that understanding, right? Because if you didn't have that, maybe that wide corporate level understanding of data flow and these types of things, maybe you wouldn't have. But I mean, nowadays with AI, you can learn that yourself, right?
yeah, yeah,
So that's I guess that's a bit nullified now, but yeah, that's
yeah,
interesting to hear from your perspective as what's important to build a project like this.
yeah. It helped a lot.
Um, for sure, yeah. And when so kind of spoiler now, you returned to Wealthsimple in 2024.
Yeah.
Uh, what changes stood out to you since your first time there? So I know the company is growing pretty rapidly right now. And how did that pace affect the kind of work that interns get to do and the way that they're able to make an impact?
Yeah. Well, definitely at Wealthsimple, they're a very product focused company. Like they're always sort of being innovative in the fintech sphere, and they're always trying new things. So like, no, I think no matter what cohort you join at Wealthsimple, you will always be working on something like almost brand new. Like I personally will say, like, I don't think I've seen a cohort where like they're sort of working on some like rudimentary cleanup. Of course, there's like teams that are like, oh, we need someone to help us, like, clear out our backlog of tasks of managing some sort of like old like ledger database or something. But like most of the time, like a lot of the product facing teams, like you're going to be working on something new, something fairly innovative. Personally, for me, I got to work on Wealthsimple for Business at a time, like fairly small team, but they had a pretty big impact, especially for like just gaining new business clients and sort of building for them. That was honestly really really cool for me. Like that was like a pretty much like it was like a startup within Wealthsimple. There's like 4 or 5 of us building something for like a decent amount of clients, and a bunch of companies and employees and employers are going to use. So it was really cool having such a product facing, I guess, first task when I came back.
Right, and you said this is kind of a position where you got to kind of build almost within a startup within the company,
Yeah.
and how does that experience kind of change the way that you're building? Does it affect, for example, something that could take you let's say 2 hours in your own personal project to build, because you're not really thinking about like, okay, reusability, maintainability, scalability. Like you have to think about how all these pieces fit together to be able to push that code to production and have it, be understood by someone else who's maybe building off of what you've built six
Yeah,
months down the line. There's a lot of documentation that goes into that, things that slow down
yeah.
the process a lot. So did you feel that kind of shift? Was
Yeah, straight
did you have?
away, straight away,
Yeah.
straight away. I don't want to sugarcoat. Like, I think one of the things that's as I was coming back, I kind of like I was on a semi on the Wealthsimple for business team, like on my first internship, but not like when I came back second time. Like I was really, really on it. Like I was on the team for sure. And like coming back, I was building sort of tools that the team would use for like just say like converting like CSV to JSON, and that's a tool that a lot of people use. It needs to be well documented and sort of like it cannot break. It's such a like they're going to be using it across many different like services or like within Baltimore business. It just simply cannot break. And so like first couple things I did was break it. Like like you know what I mean? Like but that's the really thing I really like about Baltimore is like they're not afraid to break things or like like once you break it, like you sort of have the comfort of making sure it never breaks again, sort of thing, right? Like you're not going to get reprimanded. Like some companies, like some high big tech companies, like when you break something, they're gonna like bring out the hammer. It's like, hey, what are you
Right.
doing?
Yeah.
But Wealthsimple was very very comforting. Like I remember like I broke it a couple times. I talked to my senior engineer and my mentor, and sort of like they right there sitting next to me, sort of assisting me in understanding. Okay, like I can see where it breaks, let's work it this way. And then it's an iterative process. Of course, it takes longer than 2 hours, for my personal development time. But it's like an iterative process where it's like, yeah, let's make sure that like this thing will never break again, sort of thing. And if it does break, like maybe we're just adding new features to it. Maybe we're adding like a new indexing to it. And just off that, like I think I got really, really good at just like communication in terms of tech. And just overall Ruby development. Like that's one thing I was like really, really focused on. Like I was just like, I want to be able to not Google any of this stuff. Like Ruby was brand new to me. It's very straightforward, but when you jump into a code base like that, like you got to give yourself a week to like start studying for sure. But yeah, it definitely took like a little more than 2 hours for some features. That's for sure.
Yeah, that's for sure. I
Yeah, that's
mean,
for sure.
like as you said, you can study Ruby all you want, but getting to that code base, you're gonna hit that wall
Yeah,
for
yeah.
sure.
Like, and I
You
will
can be an
say
expert,
again,
but
like
yeah,
Ruby is very magical. So you get in there, you're just gonna like random functions are gonna just start appearing. Like, oh, what does
Mm,
this do? You start using
yeah,
that, and next like it blows up later. It's like, what did I do wrong? what did I do wrong? I don't know. I don't know.
exactly, exactly.
It's so funny.
Yeah, I mean, what on that topic of breaking things in a corporate environment, what I'm just thinking now, like there's a lot of students I could imagine stepping into that world. It's like, oh, I want to do everything perfectly. I don't want to break anything.
Yeah.
What kind of advice do you have for people who are worried about making a mistake that, as you said, there's a lot of implications with potentially making a data mistake,
Yeah.
because that data might be lost or something like that. And a lot of companies are giving interns more and more responsibility these days. So what kind of advice do you have for students who are worried about that type of thing?
So I think immediately, thanks to SurveyMonkey, I kind of got over my fear of breaking things because my teammates were
Mm.
breaking things. I was like, oh shit, I was like, oh
Yeah.
snap, let me bring in the hammer,
Yeah.
like I think I got over it fairly early, but I was a little more scared because like this is actual financial data. Like I don't want to like
Mm.
any like wrong lawsuits or something like that. So I was a little bit more scared. But I think in the sense like you sort of have to put yourself in the position of the actual full stack engineers. Like there, no one is perfect. Like I think that's just like just a simple principle. Like the only reason why they don't make mistakes is because they've seen and done this mistake before. If that makes sense. Like that's as
Mm.
simple as it can. Like if you make a mistake that you've never made before, you use it as a learning experience. Like if you make the same mistake 3 times, now we gotta start talking. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
now we really gotta start talking. It's like, what do you mean you deleted prod database again? Like what are you talking about? Like that's just like a small indicator. But another thing that like I think a lot of interns might forget is like there's a lot of safeguards. Like for like there's a decent amount of safeguards. Like if you're gonna do
Yeah.
something that you think is gonna blow up the entire like front end or like back end, like obviously ask people questions, but there's a lot of
Yeah.
safeguards. Like this is not something new. If you're working in a decent corporate environment, they will have backups. They will have like mitigation tactics for a lot of these things. Like even like for example, like me working in infrastructure, we were applying a lot of those mitigation tactics for people not to push like bad code to prod, right? Like your test will fail, all that kind of things. And like for example, at Wealthsimple, like it like they was like, yo, like push it, like literally my Wealthsimple business, like push it. Let's see if it breaks. If it breaks, we can immediately try and like put a band-aid and fix it, right? Like that was like I really like Wealthsimple for business like for that because like it kind of made me not scared to sort of build like for people almost in prod. Like it's like, yo, you build you
Yeah.
push it, it blows up. What do we change now? Like what do we need to change and how can we make it better? Like you look at the error code and you tell me what happened and how can we fix it? And like it's a learning experience for me. It's like, oh shoot, I see. I clearly used the wrong magic function. Like I should have used the
Yeah.
other magic function. Like,
Hmm. Okay.
but yeah. So it's really it's just like you have to break things to really learn, right? Like even as kids, we do that too.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I mean, that's a great way of looking at it for
Yeah.
sure. For sure. So last step, Twitch. This is where we are at now.
Yeah.
And when we had our first coffee chat, I mean, I asked you about your advice for breaking into the U.S. job market
Yeah.
as a student studying in Canada. This is a very big talking point amongst a lot of people. It's like, oh, you can't do that unless you're in Waterloo because you're not in the Silicon Valley of Canada. How are
Yeah.
you going to make it to the Silicon Valley of the U.S.? So it's often a mental block. And then you shared the idea of a kind of mindset shift on that.
Yeah.
Could you kind of explain what that shift was and how it helped you land your first US internship in California at Twitch?
Yeah, so well, definitely the mind shift is quite literally, as you said, like the gatekeeping. I think I realized once again, a SurveyMonkey internship, lots of bangers from there, that it was really good. But I learned it from one of the interns there who got into MongoDB, and I literally was thinking to myself, like you can literally see the clear mindset shift from me and her, right? Like I'm one of those people who's like, oh my god, I'm not in an Ivy, just don't look at me, please, don't look at me, right? Like I'm over there scared, as if like at the end of the day, they're not looking for like they might be looking for what school, depending on the company, of course. They might be looking at what school, but like as long as you have something feasible on your resume that says you're a good engineer, like obviously at the time, like I don't know if immigration is any different now, but like if it shows you're a really good engineer, ready to learn, ready to, like honestly be sponsored, they will entertain your resume. Like there's nothing to be afraid of in that aspect, right? Like I personally, for me, I used to literally just disregard U.S. applications in general. I was like, wow, literally, I think everybody has the same concept in here. Why would they fly me from Canada to the States? Right? That's the simple that's like the general thing I think everybody has. And I really started thinking to myself, like, why not? Like literally, like immediately when I met her, like I was like, I met the person I got into the States. I was like, yo, I guess like why not? Like there is actually no harm in one applying to the States as long as they're not like saying, oh, no sponsorships. Like I actually started realizing like it doesn't matter. Like just throw your name in that pool. So most of the time it's not even a human reading it. Most of the time it's an actual ATS reading it.
Yeah.
So if you can get past the initial ATS to the recruiter, that's when you start showing the reason why you should be in the States, right? Like that's when you start showing your technical prowess. That's when you start showing your behavioral, and that's when you just show them like, yo, like fly me out, like take me, take me
Exactly.
to
You
the
like what you
States.
see, fly me out then.
Yeah, no, literally, and like a lot of these companies, obviously, like they're making millions, right? Like most of the time when they do these work visas, like they can just do it. Like it doesn't even come at a cost to them. It might be like reimbursed by the government at some points, and like it's just a good experience as a whole for like the company itself. Like they're bringing new minds, bringing a whole fresh outlook, and I think that the company benefits as well, just bringing a whole new like perspective of just honestly engineering. It doesn't really matter who you are, as long as you sort of like showing yourself through an interview, right? Like that's what they want. That they if you can show yourself, really sell yourself, they'll do. A lot of these companies will do anything to bring you. Honestly,
Yeah, very true, very true. And it's a good thing to kind of have that mindset when you're looking at US internships, especially because there is that stigma of like, oh, if you really need to be top of the line to be able to make it out, you need to be like the top 5% of Canadian students to get out of Canada, I guess.
yeah,
But it's really not the case.
yeah,
But I mean, your first internship, or your internship, I guess now you're full time. There was in mobile app development.
yeah.
What was that experience like? And do you see Swift becoming this go-to tool for learning mobile? Or do you think some more cross-platform tools, like for example, emerging ones like Flutter or some established ones like React Native, for instance, are just as important?
Yeah. I think once again, college was really good, hands-on. They were teaching us both Swift, React Native, and Android development, right? Like I got the chance to use all three, and I definitely would say like personally for me, I think getting a good understanding of JavaScript for React Native is really, really good in terms of like if you want to go the mobile route. A decent amount of companies will hire you for that, and then you can always pivot if you'd like to like more front end work, or like, you have that JavaScript experience now, so you can always pivot if the market's not doing so hot mobile. You go Swift or Android, Android Studio, Kotlin. If you really, really like, you bleeding mobile development, like you hop into mobile, you're like, yo, like this is what I want to do for 10 years, right? Like, because, that like picking those languages really, really narrow you down, right? Like becoming an iOS developer, you really get narrow. Like you're going to be working predominantly in the iOS environment, right? Like it's kind of hard to pivot out. Like where else are you going to be using Swift at? So it kind of gets hard to sort of pivot out of that environment. But in terms of which one to pick, it really does depend on what you can see yourself, not like I guess losing your mind over. Like personally for me, if I were to pick between the two, of like Kotlin or iOS, I'd go to iOS route all the time. You know what I mean? Like
Oh, wow.
I find the development environment kind of fun. Like people shit on Xcode all the time, or just like say
Yeah,
Xcode is bad.
true.
But I kind of enjoyed it. I kind of love making the buttons on Twitch. It was really, really, I love the code base there, so it was really, really fun. I would definitely go back again. Like if you were to offer me like Android or Swift, like easily I'd go with Swift. But of course, like you give me a third option of React Native. Oh, why not? I would easily go React Native because like I prefer the cross platformness of it, and just obviously just the cleanness of JavaScript. Like it's just none of that low level stuff, man. Just I don't need
Yeah.
to see no Objective C. I don't need to see no raw Java. I don't need to see any of that. I'm just there clicking my buttons. Just
Right, exactly, exactly. And that goes back to what you were saying before, right? About being a general programmer. And
yeah,
that's kind of your mindset throughout your whole career is what I'm getting.
yeah,
And being a general programmer means, not narrowing yourself down to one thing because, if you get narrowed down to iOS, like
you,
where do you go from there,
yeah.
right?
Can't really.
If Exactly. You could strike it big at a company that's looking specifically for iOS, and if there's not a big candidate pool, you can get lucky there.
Yeah,
But I think, as you said, being a wider, having that wide sense of understanding of different things is probably more beneficial, to average across all those things,
yeah,
for sure. And I mean, now that you work full time, let's talk about, how does full time experience differ from intern experience,
yeah.
and how is, as well as that, how is working on the East Coast versus the West Coast? You're
Yeah.
in Europe. Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
sure it's a big shift as well.
Yeah, it is definitely a big shift. Okay, so for one, I think going from intern to full time, I've literally just talked to my manager about this. Like, it's such a weird experience because, like, now it's like this is my career job. Like, now there's a sense of ownership where I'm at,
Mm.
right? Like, as an intern, you have a sense of ownership for just it's literally a trial. You get a trial run of like
Yeah.
ownership in terms of a service. But now it's like if something goes wrong, you come to me, right? Like, I own this service, I own this program. If something goes wrong with it, you come to me and I will, like, I'm now like I'm a cobbler, for example. Like I'm selling shoes, and if something goes wrong with your shoes, you come to me, I'll fix it. I'm owning that sort of like responsibility now. And it's different because like now, I hit my 1 year, but now I got, how long? I got like four more, I got five more, I got like six
Right.
more. So,
Exactly.
so like,
There's no bound on it anymore.
yeah, there's
Yeah.
no bound. I think that's like it kind of feels a little scary sometimes because like now it's really like really like I'm here, like I'm like the forefront of any issues that might occur, and if you really need me, like I have to be there. I have to sort of be the knowledge bloke. I have to be the knowledge like gatherer. But I think other than that, like it's been honestly, I feel like if you've done an internship, it really feels like the same work you're already doing. But I
Okay.
would definitely say a lot more relaxed because they don't like you said, there's no balance. Like now it's like I've got 4 or 5 years, and like in an internship, you're sort of like, oh my god, I gotta impress this guy, I gotta impress this guy, I gotta do this, I gotta
Mhm.
do that. And like now it's like it feels a lot slower, and it's like you can still impress people, but like it's more managed now. It's like okay,
Right.
Q1 I'm gonna do this, and we're gonna initiate for Q2. And then Q3, we're gonna like it's a lot more planned, a lot more
Yeah.
synchronized, and honestly, I guess it's more relaxing in that matter, but like stressful in the long term. If it makes sense. And then the difference, West Coast, East Coast. Personally, I like East Coast just so I can be closer to Canada. Go Canada.
Okay.
You know how it is. You know how it is.
Exactly. Yeah.
But I
I've
think,
been back a few times.
yeah,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
uh, but I feel like if you're an avid tech bro, the West would definitely why not? Like if you don't mind being with every other tech person, like the West is definitely would go to. Like personally, I would be there too, but like I like the diversity of my folks. I like seeing business bros. I love seeing people in arts. But the West is like like come on, like you can't go wrong with those mountains. You can't go wrong with that weather too in San Francisco. You can't go wrong with like, oh, I want to play basketball all day outside. The weather stays the same. Like
Of
you
course.
can never go wrong with that. But yeah, I definitely like the East Coast much better. I prefer it. It's quite nice.
And like, what do you think about people getting worried about moving to a new place for work? I think that's a big topic of conversation, and it's something that a lot of people consider, when they're making their choice of whether to take an offer or not.
Yeah, I definitely would say like, well, so when I interned at Twitch and went to San Francisco, I wouldn't say I think like it definitely depends on who you know there. I got a chance to intern with my roommates, like, or like other Twitch folks. So like I wasn't that stressed. It was like, oh my God, I got people to do things with. But I definitely know a couple people who have come to New York now and they're sort of by themselves. They're looking for apartments and I can see the high stress. And honestly, the best advice I always give them is like, one, you gotta obviously mingle with your coworkers. Like that's what you can't you like if you're at least working here, you at least have to know at least four coworkers. Like you can't just go to the office and be like, oh, you're like shutting away from that. You cannot be doing that. That's like immediate number one. And then two is just like you got to give yourself time to like get comfortable. Like for me when I came to New York, I was very stressed the first 4 months. Like I like it may not have shown it or had anxiety, but it's like like I'm here by myself. Like my parents are gone. Like, they're over there in
Yeah,
another country, and like honestly, just getting used to obviously as a Canadian coming to the States, like just getting used to the overall sentiment or just the overall vibe of the new state is like it gets really overwhelming. And like the only way I really grounded myself was just understand like it takes time. It really like you really just have to accept the anxiety. Like you just there's not what are you gonna do? There's nothing you can do with that anxiety. So you just like
exactly.
you just have to like it's an uncomfortable, weird feeling, but eventually it goes away. And when it goes away, oh my goodness, like it's just like wow, like let me go for a walk. It's nice and sunny. Let me go for a walk. You
Yeah,
go to Google Maps. Where's the nearest gelato spot near me? I need to find it immediately. Like you start doing things like that. So,
for
like,
those in New York, what's the best gelato spot?
oh well, no one mezcal gelato. Everybody knows what
Okay.
that is. I think it's actually the only like good gelato spot downtown Toronto. So, I think mezcal gelato. Yeah, it's really good.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, we've kind of covered, more so some general stuff, but let's look at, for example, security specifically, because you're in security
Yeah,
engineering. So, in a sense, every single one of your roles has been a different role each time, and
yeah.
for a lot of people, that's something that's unheard of, but it also gets you a lot of understanding to different things, again, being general. So for students curious about security, what types of roles are available? Are there a lot of subsets or is it more general?
Honestly, starting security, I realize there's a lot of subsets. I always like to say like, or I find it's always comedic. Like anytime I did any of my internships, I would always find a security intern and always ask them like, "What are you working on?" And I kid you not, they're always working on something like crazy, like or something just hella random. And like I was like, I remember like on my SurveyMonkey, the security intern there, like she was working on some like IP blocking stuff. And like sometimes when I walk by her desk, like she's just cooking up some crazy stuff. I'm like, oh my god, like what's going? Like like with no context, like oh my god, these guys are just a bunch of hackers and stuff. And like there's definitely honestly with every like security intern I've talked to and like seeing what their project is like it's very entertaining. Like I don't think it's like relatively boring. It depends on obviously where you work. But like if you come from a straight up developer background, like there's security development. Like you can actually build like platforms on top of security tooling. Like you can build for security developers to sort of like streamline the production flow or like just general like investigations. So there's a lot to sort of like link around. Um, and even for the data engineers, right? Like even one of the major points in my job role is just like log diving and log investigations, and someone has to start gathering those logs. Someone has to set up those pipelines for those logs to be ingested. And honestly, that's my favorite team at Twitch. So the log ingesting team, the data platform team, like they do a lot of really cool stuff, and they handle a lot of data. Like I mean, like I'm incident response, hence I need as much data as I can to start tracing things down. And they take our data requests like, hey, I want to see how many footsteps someone took. Can we get that? And like, they start like, okay, I'll figure out a way if we could get that. Let's see if we can. And just seeing that, like, dude, it's very entertaining. There's so much to do in security. Like, it covers all rounds, honestly.
Yeah, and it sounds like data is like at the core of everything, right?
Yeah,
Like
literally.
there's always some sort of data understanding that you have to be able to do any of these types of roles.
Yeah, yeah.
So, I mean, in general, for someone wanting to go into security, what should you learn? Operating systems, memory, networking knowledge, low-level programming, or do you just completely scrap all of that and focus on data, as you said, to get into that?
Definitely depends on sort of what sort of security you want to get into. Like, since obviously Twitch is more of a cloud-based security company, if you go to some more, I guess, like legacy companies, some of their security might be on-prem, might be maybe on-prem meaning like on managed devices, like they all have their own devices. And that's a whole different playing ground. So like you definitely need to know a lot of OS. Like I think of in my day to day, like understanding OS, like operating systems, and just understanding like, okay, what is a vulnerability? Like how can operating systems be vulnerable? And does it matter what type of operating system? Does it matter what version of the operating system? Like understanding that general principle is definitely important, no matter what sort of security you're on. For most people, I think like security engineering is quite literally this is obviously cybersecurity, like this cybersecurity, right? Like you would obviously want to go into some like networking. You'd want to understand a little bit more. I would definitely say you definitely want to understand networking. I think that's like the general principle of defense. Like if you want to defend anything in terms of tech today, like you have to understand the only way people can attack you, right, through a network, right? Like they like
Exactly.
no one is there these days on a physical like, hey, where your hard drives at? No one's
Yeah.
doing that. No one is doing that anymore. So like I hated my networking class, right? Like I hated like the IP addresses, all that subnet stuff. I hated it, but you actually find it quite useful. Like it's like, oh shoot, that like it makes sense. Like what's the importance of a VPC, right? Like every company has a VPC, like a virtual private like a virtual private
Yeah.
cloud that where no one else can access. That's a very important concept to understand, and just knowing that will get you brownie points, right? Like how do you secure things within your company network of VPC? Like if you don't know that, then you would sort of be stomped, and you wouldn't understand honestly the core principle of like cloud security at all. But I definitely say just like I think for security, certificates are pretty good, or just like courses. I kind of got lucky just being able to pivot to security like this. I think for the most part, like people do need certificates. Like people do need
Yeah.
like some sort of project or sort of like hands-on experience of like, oh, I infiltrated this, or I did like try hack me for like 30 days. Like those are really, really good to like stand out, especially in interviews or just like conversationally. But yeah, generally you definitely need the basics of computer science. Like I would say so. Like it really helps a lot. Like I think, and just like even though I'm incident response, just my understanding of full stack applications and web applications in general, it makes it. I have a context that most security engineers who actually are in security don't even have, and I can understand like like an actual like at web application level what is vulnerable here. Like I can understand that just simply because I've built systems like this before. So it helps. It helps a lot.
That's a great point because I think a lot of people would be nervous to enter these types of new fields. But the theme that's kind of going on for you is that each of your previous roles has given you context that someone who's in that new role would not necessarily have.
Yeah.
And for interns, especially new grads, entry level, these companies want that new perspective, right? They want that perspective that they can't get through people who have been in the industry, been in this specific, narrow field of security for X amount of years, and they understand everything about it. Their vision might be narrowed towards that thing, and it might be, a bit of a challenge to branch out and approach problems from different ways. But I wanted to also point out that I think a good way to get into security is just reading about security.
Oh, that too.
And that's another thing about like all these types of roles in general. It's in software, especially. There's just so much content about news and things like that. And fun fact as well, a lot of interviews will ask about, they
The
could ask,
latest.
what's something you read about that's related to this role. That you learned recently.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you want to learn it for that, go ahead by all means. But in general, just stepping into these roles, I think that's a critical way to just get your foot in the door, even if you don't learn anything technical from that. Just to have that general understanding.
Yeah, honestly, I forgot to even mention that. Like, part of security is always being up to date, right? Like the attack landscape always changes, and even for like Twitch, like people are monitoring, and if something we feel might be affecting us, we send it in chat and be like, hey, what's going on here? Like someone on Reddit just found this. Like what's going on here? And you'd be surprised how often like information sharing is very, very important. And just like once you start full time, like even in front end development, even in back end, like just understanding up and coming like performance issues, optimization, new packages, vulnerabilities, like it just being up to date in just your sphere of I guess like expertise is really, really important.
Yeah, and it's a lot more public than you'd think.
Yeah, easily.
Everything is kind of just available there, and you'd be surprised what kind of things you'd find, especially in security as well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's crazy, but that's a
Yeah.
rabbit hole for another
Yeah.
time, I think.
Wild, wild
Um,
west.
yeah, it is. That's a good way to put it. So I mean, that's sort of your career path in general. I mean, to close this out, let's go through some general types of tips
Sounds good.
for someone stepping into software development in general. So, I mean, you've had a really good track record with return offers. So you've gone return offer at Wealthsimple, and you've also gone return offer at Twitch.
Yeah.
Once you land a job, what's your best advice for positioning yourself to get a return offer?
So immediately, like I think the like it's like I said, it's a mindset shift. Like there's a lot of mindset shifts that you have to have occur. Like that's what growth quite literally is, right? And I think like once you start your internship, if you really want to secure like I would say a return internship, like obviously it depends on sort of like business needs. Like there's some things, there's some factors that you simply can't change. Like they might not need a third mobile engineer, right? They might not need that. But let's say that you are competing against one person, what can give you the edge? And it's simply like your canvas or like whether you are behaving in a way that is already like ready to assimilate to the team. You know what I mean? Like if you act as a full stack engineer, sort of showing us signs of I want to own this, or hey, can like bringing powerful insights to conversations that are already occurring will like literally allow you to shine. It's quite crazy. Like a lot of people forget that you really need to sort of put yourself in a mindset of who you want to be able to sort of become that person. I don't know, like like a
Right.
door, like a light bulb sort of thing. But like, if you really want to sort of become a like full stack software engineer, you're not just gonna go to the internship acting like a full time intern, right? Like you're not gonna be like, so can someone help me with this? Can someone help me with that? You do, hey, I tried solving this myself. I see some issues here. Can we have a general conversation? Can we talk about technical requirements? Like just the whole canvas there is now I'm a junior level engineer ready to be onboarded on your team, asking critical questions that now will have you thinking about the architecture. Does that make sense? Like I'm asking
Yeah.
very simple questions of, hey, why doesn't this work? But now the senior engineer might start thinking, actually, I've been thinking of scrapping that this entire time. We should probably start like bringing that up in the coffee chat. And I've actually had that happen a couple of times. And like people are scared of asking dumb questions, but you like when you ask a dumb question, it might lead someone who has even more context to be like, dude, that's not a dumb question. Why do we even have that? And then, like it spurs on
Yeah.
a whole different side
Yeah.
project that some people don't realize even existed. And like you put yourself in that intern mindset of like, no, it's supposed to be like that. It's supposed to be like that. No, we should not build like that. Like you just
Mm.
now restricting yourself. Now you're not even thinking or showing ownership. Now you're just like honestly just you're just an intern. But yeah, there's a clear difference in just like being an intern and then striving and aspiring to be a full time engineer. And honestly, like obviously for me, like I really think I got that concept down after I think my first internship at Wealthsimple. I think I talked to a principal engineer there, and he was sort of like telling me like like if you really want to start asking powerful questions, you really gotta ask like who, what, why, and when, right? Like if you get that
Mm.
context down, like you can really start asking some really critical questions. Like, and the thing is, like people like it. Like it makes it crazy, but people in engineering like it when you ask good questions because now it excites them. Now it sort of gets them asking questions, and like we don't see it in the background, but the gears start turning. Like the senior engineer might go ask his manager, like, yeah, so we're having some GitHub action issues. So we have some flaky tests. What can we do with a flaky test? Do we even need the flaky test? Like, and then starts
Yeah.
asking all those questions. Next, the flaky tests are gone thanks to you. And it may
Right.
seem weird, but your impact is now felt there. Like you're gone, and they're like, oh man, like what did you do? Oh man, I remember we got rid of that flaky test. Like we don't need that anymore. Like that was like an annoyance, but now we have like a reasonable clause to sort of get rid of it. Like the intern is stating it. Like I think a lot of people forget that. Like like really really insightful questions will take you far. Like people like a lot of people do not forget good questions that are asked of them. Right? Like even now you might remember like an elementary school teacher that answered one of your questions. Just like, oh wow, I never thought about it like that. And you're like, oh shit, like you
Yeah.
now it left an impression on you. So I definitely say asking really good questions and just putting your mindset in a full stack engineer. You put your mindset in a full stack engineer, asking good questions, you immediately like that's someone that when they compare two people, one person's thinking like an intern, one person is like begging for help all the time. The other is like they are begging for help, but they're begging for help in like a critical way, in a way that's not like just
Educated.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's an educated manner, right? Like someone
Yeah.
who's yeah, and I think it's very clear. Like even now, starting full time, I feel like I can feel that when I see people who are like at Twitch. We had our past summer intern cohort, and our security intern was asking some really really powerful questions. I like it left an impression on me. And if they were to ask me to advocate for her, I'd be like, oh yeah, go for it, right? Like that's
Sure.
just small things like that, right?
Yeah. And I think that's a great point because you started by explaining, the best way to fit in is to be is to integrate with whatever they have seamlessly.
Yeah,
But that also means there's a balance there, because you can't just accept everything that they do and just seamlessly integrate with them and that's it, because you're replaceable.
Yeah,
Anyone can do that, right? It's also about having that balance of challenging things when they
yeah,
arise.
probably.
So it's finding that balance without being too far towards one way, asking the company to change every single thing that they do, which is not the right way, or fitting in way too much and not leaving any impact at all, because you're just kind of fitting in and just checking off boxes and
Yeah, quite
tickets, right?
literally.
So it's finding that balance in between that I think is what, based on what you're saying, is very important.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, literally.
for sure. um I mean, just in general, I'm curious. What one moment in your life, big or small, that shaped your career trajectory
Ooh, shame my
completely?
career traditionally. Well, I'll be honest with you. It really was when I was talking to the one internet survey monkey that got the U.S. internship. Like like
Yeah,
I was walking home that day. I was asking myself, why haven't I applied? Like like it was like I was talking to her.
exactly.
She was like just telling me. Obviously, the salary was like, whoa, they paying that much? Like
Yeah,
I immediately walked home. I was thinking to myself like yo, like man, have some confidence in yourself, man. You can do it.
yeah,
You can do it. You can do it. And immediately
exactly.
I started quite literally watching more YouTube videos about like how do you apply for a FANG, or like I literally started thinking to myself like let me not limit myself, or like let me not like let's have some confidence here and let's see if we can like
Right.
aspire to be like where I can imagine myself to be is pretty much what I thought. I definitely got to say that was definitely it. Like I really would say I don't like I really
Yeah.
think like if I did not interact or learn from her, I probably would still like obviously still be in Canada, just like scared and like I want to
Yeah.
just do big tech in Canada, But
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of it is confidence, and that's something that you've been a big advocate of, is just
yeah,
having that confidence to do this, just put yourself out there and take that step,
yeah.
no matter what. Yeah. I mean, so let's just say you're put in a scenario. You have an interview coming up, 1 week, tests both software engineering skills and non-technical skills. How do you segment your time to best prepare?
Ooh, okay. I definitely had that scenario happen quite a bit,
Yeah, quite a
right?
bit.
Easily. So one of the things that I find like okay, so for behaviorals, I actually like so I feel like for behaviorals, if you practice it once or a couple of like if you give yourself a decent amount of time to practice behaviorals, you get it down. So let's say you have a
Mm,
week. I'd give myself maybe 2 days of like practicing behaviorals, 2 days of hard practicing behaviorals, because behaviorals is something that if you learn the ability to parrot, like parroting has in like you go outside and it's going to sound crazy, you're talking to yourself, right? Like you sort of
yeah,
like it's like hey, I'm Emmanuel Sogelola. I'm doing like if you learn how to sort of parrot and like be able to practice as you're doing other things, behavioral is actually the most easiest part of the interview personally for me. Like,
right.
well, obviously I feel like I'm obviously more of a social person, so like I'm able to like work off small cues or like I'm able to like socially be able to do that. But like I generally do think like behaviorals are something you can practice while you're washing your dishes, right? Like while you're playing golf, you start like and that's all I was doing pretty much. I was like pretty much talking to myself as if I'm interviewing myself, asking myself critical questions like why did you go for Wealthsimple instead of Shopify? I'm asking myself that question. I'm like talking to myself, looking crazy, but it really helps. Now, technical, that's where I really do think like you really do got to put your time in. If you're really good at technical, focus on your behavior. That means you're a nerd, like right. Like there are people like that. Like there are people who are really really good at programming, but they're not able to communicate. Like if you're really good at lead coding or you have a decent concept of data structures, I would definitely put my time like talking and like understanding like okay like how can I talk to this hiring manager without sounding like like people go off vibes to hire you, dude. Like people do not want this cold, calculated leak code engineer on their team sometimes.
Yeah,
Like, hey, you can go to Meta. They might take you there for sure. You know what I mean?
yeah,
But most people do not want this. Yeah, so yeah, I want to start this company because like I just love programming. Yeah.
hmm,
Like no one's gonna do that. Like, oh, who's
yeah, of
like, yeah,
course.
thank you for
Yeah,
solving 3 leak code hards. Get the hell out of here.
yeah,
No one's gonna do that. But like if you know you're not confident in lead code, I definitely recommend like you allocate like 3 to 4 days of your time for lead coding, right? Like that's a clear concept. And personally for me, I always start off with lead code easies, like get that confidence up, and then you move to the mediums, and like solving one hard or attempting to solve one hard in a very verbose way. And when I say verbose, I mean like you are in the lead code like code editor and you are commenting like I want to do it like this, I want to do it like that, I want to do it like that. I've had a couple of interviews where I don't even solve the question. I actually am just like quite literally putting my thought process down in comments. and they took it as a solution. They took it like, oh no, we like the solution, we'll move you forward. I was like, oh shit, like I didn't get it right. I didn't have to write a single bit of code.
Right, exactly.
Like simple things like that is like, but that really does help your communication, because if you're able to translate it into common code, like I'm telling you, like I think parroting was definitely the best bet for my practice, because like I'm just talking to myself in that comic code, like yeah, let's divide it by 2, like I'm just talking to myself. But just like simple things like that will like help you ace most of your interviews. Like that's honestly the best advice I can give.
I think the a good takeaway there is the parroting thing, because that's to a lot of people the idea of going in front of the camera is just a scary thing in general, especially in software where unfortunately you don't get that many opportunities to build that skill of speaking to people. And as soon as you try, you find yourself, oh, like I've been sitting down on my laptop for the past 5 days, I haven't seen the sun, I've forgotten how to speak. So yeah, the idea of parroting with yourself, you don't always have to have someone to speak to. It sounds crazy, but you speak to yourself and you get better.
Helps a lot.
Yeah, it does, for sure. And I've done it before as well, and it definitely helps. Yeah, for sure. What's your stance on hackathons? You spoke about it before, but nowadays there's a lot of conflicting opinions on hackathons. People are saying, oh, it's just used as a way to build MVPs, and it's vibe coded slop is a common term now. And a lot of people say, actually no, it tests your ability to think quickly, work with a team, lead teams, etc. What side do you stand on now that you used to do hackathons a lot back in the day? Now you're kind of maybe over that phase, but nowadays, what would you think?
So, okay, so I would say like back in the days, obviously there was not like that much vibe coding that I had to do. So like I think the personal thing I got from hackathons was the general interaction with other people and building things. Like when I did hackathons, not with my friends, I had to interact with people that I didn't even know, right? Like that was like a clear comfort zone issue there. And like there were some hackathons where I knew more than the people I teamed up with. So I personally got a sense of leadership. Like I like, it obviously depends on who you are, but I was able to like, oh, like, yeah, let's build this, let's architect it this way, let's do this. And like I got the team to assist in building this clear vision. So like there's just general principles like being able to lead a small group of people is the most beneficial, I would say. And if you can't, working with a group of people in like a well architected way is definitely one of the benefits of a hackathon, right? Like where else other than school would you gain that experience? And where else other than school would you be able to build a full stack application with a small team that you can now put on your resume? No, like honestly, like personally, like unless you got friends, nowhere, right? Like, I think a lot of people forget that. Now with the AI slob comment, bro, if I was doing hackathons to this day with AI, like, bro, easily, like that is that like it obviously makes it easy, but imagine what you can build in a weekend now. Like you can really build some crazy stuff. Like it saves you a lot of time of like boilerplate. Like, I think back then hackathons were like what do you call it? What's the main hackathon? The main hackathon sponsors, MLH. Yeah, I think. Yeah. I can forget. But like MLH would give you like boilerplates to use for your like the hackathons. Now, man, you don't need no you don't need boilerplates anymore. Like that could be like create me a base MVP React app and just show me a decent dashboard. Oh my goodness, saves me time. I can start doing the interesting stuff. So in terms of that, like you can really build some really cool stuff now. Like especially with artificial intelligence, like the guy, like whoever's saying that is just trolling, because like now you can build whatever you can sort of imagine, like AI ChatGPT rapper. Who cares? Make it look cool. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and you also get brownie points you could win. And I think like the mentorship aspect of hackathons is like very underrated. I think a lot of people forget that you can like most hackathons have dedicated mentors there. Like Hack the North, like by far, like when I mentored there, like some of the mentors there really full, like some of these people are like senior engineers who are ready to answer any question you have. Like I was like, oh my god, like I never Hack the North's busted. Like they got some crazy ass mentors there. And like if you don't even realize that, like some people, like some people might just be like, oh, just another hack that my school sponsoring. Dude, you have access to some resources that some like I wish I could talk to a senior engineer and ask him like, how would you build this platform from start to finish? Yeah, thank you. Like most people are just asking ChatGPT now, but now you have real industry knowledge who can give you like very catered knowledge based off their context, if that makes sense. So I highly recommend hackathons.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's definitely one of the best ways to get to know people as well. Aside from being able to learn about new technologies and things like that, and being able to build something, you learn, you find other people as well And over time, you accumulate this person, this person, this person, this person. Maybe now you have a new hackathon team with people you've already met. And maybe, who knows, startup team as well. Could be as well.
No, literally, no.
If you could learn just one skill, one technology, that's it, what would you do?
Man, if I was to do it all again, I would definitely say C++. Or okay, ooh man, this is too hard. No, this is too hard because
It's hard.
no, because like it's hard to pick because like I would easily do C++ because like then like if I could learn it, like I want to do game development. I really like graphics engineering at the time. But anyways, I would definitely learn C++. Like I feel like it's decently low level enough where you can pretty much build anything. And like with C++, I could work on hardware stuff as well. Embedded like systems. I would find that quite fun. But like my fun answer to that would definitely be Java because my unpopular opinion, even for me, but I really like Java. Like they just keep adding new stuff, and it's such a fun programming language to use. Like object oriented, like you can't go wrong, man. Like I love objects.
Exactly. If you don't know where to start, object oriented programming is like just such a great way to first just walk into the space.
Yeah, like,
and people used to just get jobs just knowing object oriented programming. It's not like that anymore. But that should go to show you, it's such a good fundamental skill that jobs would look for as someone who's trying to just get into the space at the beginning.
And Java's just fun to use in general. So doesn't mean just like Java's just it's fun. It's fun. It gets fun.
Fair, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of things you can build that's very flexible.
Yeah.
And on top of that, like Spring as well, if you want to learn a framework,
Nice.
Very useful.
Very useful.
All right. Last thing, one piece of advice you have for someone just getting into software development. What would it be in 10 seconds or less?
Ooh, 10 seconds or less. Definitely use the AI as like a Q&A. Like I'm not even gonna lie to you. Like if I had like so many like ambiguous questions I had as a developer, Stack Overflow answered, but like AI could just like you don't even have to use it as a source of truth. You just use it as a way to start your search, right? Like you sort of being like, I want to build this application. How can I do it? You start off using that, and it starts like it might say AWS S3. You might want to use a cheaper alternative, and now you start discovering other alternatives that companies use. Like I can't even think of other alternatives, but like like Postgres, you might use your own managed databases or something like that.
Yeah. Or
like you might use your MongoDB, and it might like you can then ask like cater question. I want to get used to NoSQL. Immediately it'll tell you MongoDB. Like so using like resources like that, especially in this information age where like now I really do think like asking ambiguous questions, it's easy to find your like a way to start like your search. Like you don't have to use it as a source of truth, but start your navigation honestly from there. Like it really gives you a lot of context. That's literally, I think that's the best bet because I think starting as an engineer, even when I started, like there was just so much ambiguity and you wouldn't even know what to use because there's so much to use, right? Like everybody has some sort of like solution for something. And you're like, I might start using S3 and the next I'm like, oh man, I don't want to, like, why am I learning AWS now? Like now I'm learning AWS IAM, now I'm learning AWS key management now. Like, it's like, oops, I just wanted something simple. Like now what? Like, so you always get into that rabbit hole, which is good for learning. Like I probably wouldn't have learned AWS without that mistake, but you know what I mean? But like, it could have saved me time as well.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, dumb questions can forge your path in ways that you have no idea. Especially now with AI, it'll push you towards new things that you didn't even know anything about. You'll solve something, it'll break something else. You'll have to figure out that new thing, and once that new thing is figured out, you've just learned something new as a byproduct potentially. So yeah, I mean, as always, this has been a fantastic chat. Great advice. We could talk for hours about all these things. So we'll definitely have you back on, maybe for a tier list, rank all your skills, S tier to F tier. But we'll see when the time comes. We'll talk about the startup as well too. We have more things to talk about. So if viewers enjoy this one, Emmanuel will be back for sure.
This was fun. This was really fun. I enjoyed this. I can't wait.